up next, Rush, Clockwork Angels, released June 8th, 2012, and reached number 2 on the Billboard charts. Really great artwork by Hugh Syme, or is it Sim? I never know how to pronounce his name. The guy who does pretty much all of their artwork over the years. Of course, obviously, this is their sort of big kind of closest thing they've ever come to a rock opera, I guess. Kind of a steampunk inspired story. A lot of really great images for each of the songs. Well, I think people are going to be really surprised and they're going to be kind of scratching their heads, what, really, dude? With a lot of my Rush, some of my Rush picks. Clockwork Angels, maybe not so much, because, there are quite a lot of people who do like this album. Although I don't know that there's a lot of them who would put it in their top 5, like I have. And I'm not sure I can really defend putting it in my top 5, other than just to say that I just love this album. I don't know. It's like if 2112, the piece 2112, had covered the entire album 2112. That's kind of what this feels like to me, except that it's not as good as that would have been, but yeah, it's like that to me. That's kind of how I hear it, how I feel it. The story is just he's kind of a farm boy who longs to get away and go see the world and have big adventures and stuff. And then first song, Caravan, is about his getting that opportunity and taking off. See, on a road lit only by fire, going where I want instead of where I should, I peer out at the passing shadows, carried through the night into the city, where a young man has a chance of making good. This is one of the 2 songs, this one and the next one, that were actually released as a download single, whatever. God, I think over a year before the album was finished and released. And then the next song is BU2B. It's basically just about how the boy was always taught, by whoever, the powers that be, to just accept your fate and not question things. And this is kind of a subject that seems never far from Neil Peart, the lyricist's, the drummer lyricist's mind. He's always writing songs about that, going at least as far back as Free Will or 2112 for that matter. And this is kind of another song in that line. This is the other song that was part of that early single, or double, or whatever. Both these songs are really good. But then the third song is the title track, Clockwork Angels, and this is where it kind of gets a little bit more elaborate. They really probably haven't sounded this sort of grand and since probably the 70s in a way. The boy is arrived in the big city, and he's kind of overwhelmed by the sort of outward kind of magnificence of the city, and it's all well, there's these big gigantic, well, clockwork angels up in the sky, and I guess the idea is that everything is, here is this sort of meant to sort of overawe people and impress with its outward brilliance, to the point where you feel that you think there's something spiritual behind it, but without really trying to think of what really is behind it. It's kind of hard to communicate, I guess. You promise every treasure to the foolish and the wise, goddesses of mystery, spirits in disguise. Every pleasure we bow and close our eyes. Clockwork angels promise every prize. Celestial machinery, move through your commands. Goddesses of mystery, so delicate and so grand. Move to worship, we bow and close our eyes. Clockwork angels promise every prize. Lean not upon your own understanding. Ignorance is well and truly blessed. Trust in perfect love and perfect planning. Everything will turn out for the best. That kind of almost kind of refers back to the previous song, BU2B. But that section right there is one of the coolest parts of the song in terms of the production. It's kind of trippy little kind of detour in the song. So then we go to side 2. Actually, at the end of that song is a little kind of subsection called the Peddler 1, which is just a voice whispering, "What do you lack?" The peddler is a character in the story. And then we go to side 2, and the first song is the Anarchist, which is another character. This is a character who's developed a deep sense of anger, kind of at the world. I don't know. I guess he feels like he's always been kind of left out, and not a part of things, and I don't know. I lack their smiles and their diamonds. I lack their happiness and love. I envy them for all those things I never got my fair share of. The lenses inside of me that paint the world black. The pools of poison, the scarlet mist that spill over into rage. The things I've always been denied. An early promise that somehow died. A missing part of me that grows around me like a cage. That's probably some of the best lyrics I think Niels wrote right there, actually. And the song definitely kind of gets that feeling of anger and rage. And then the next song is called Carnies. The main character, takes a job in a carnival, and it's the one song on the album. Tune-wise, it's great. Lyric-wise, it's a bit narrative heavy. This one thing that this album has managed to avoid that a lot of rock opera type albums, kind of the pitfall they kind of fall into on occasion. And this one largely kind of steers clear of that. In fact, the story almost kind of goes away before, like probably about halfway through side 3, and after that it's just the thoughts of the character. But this one is a bit heavy on the narrative. It's just basically the Anarchist enters the carnival and basically throws a bomb into the proceedings, and the main character actually catches the thing and nearly gets taken down when people think that he's the one who was going to detonate the bomb. But anyway, and then the third song on side 2 is Halo Effect. This is one of the prettier songs on there. It's a ballad, um, and quite a bit of orchestration on this album. A lot more than you normally hear on a Rush album. I mean, there have been some songs in the past where they had orchestrations on them, but this one is probably their most heavily orchestrated album. It's got several orchestral arrangements on it. This is a really good song. It should have. Well, I mean, I say it should have been a single. It probably wouldn't have made any difference. Rush never has hit singles, but anyway, basically about a doomed love affair. Let's see. What did I care? Fool that I was. Little by little I burned. Maybe sometimes there might be a flaw, but how pretty the picture was back then. What did I do? Fool that I was, to profit from youthful mistakes. It's shameful to tell how often I fell in love with illusions again. So shameful to tell just how often I fell in love with illusions again. A goddess with wings on her heels. Then we go to side 3, and the first song is 7 Cities of Gold. Apparently he managed to escape the carnival and escape all that madness, and he's gone looking for some mythical city of gold. You know, it's actually based on a real life myth here on Earth, Cibola, and basically it's just about him going into this beautiful but very dangerous place. It's and nearly dying there. It's tune-wise, it's one of the songs on here that does kind of harken back to their 70s kind of feel, sound. This one and The Anarchist is another one that has some elements of kind of stuff you might have heard in their 70s work. Let's see. 7 Cities of Gold, stories that fired my imagination. 7 Cities of Gold, a splendid mirage in this desolation. 7 Cities of Gold, glowing in my dreams like hallucinations, glitter in the sun like a revelation, distant as a comet or a constellation. And then the next song is one they actually did release as a single, and it's one of the best songs on here. It's called The Wreckers. Well, of course, he escapes that situation, and he's on some ship, and this is actually inspired by the Daphne du Maurier novel Jamaica Inn, which is about a bunch of wreckers on like the coast of Cornwall in England, who they would cover up or douse the lighthouse light, the light that guides ships in, keeps them off the rocks, and light a phony light over by where the rocks are and lead the ships into the rocks to wreck, and then they'd go on board and kill everybody and take all the loot. And basically this is the same setup, but in this steampunk kind of world. But as usual with Neil Peart, there's kind of an underlying theme here. Let's see. All I know is that sometimes you have to be wary of a miracle too good to be true. All I know is that sometimes the truth is contrary. Everything in life you thought you knew. All I know is that sometimes you have to be wary because sometimes the target is you. The breakers roar on an unseen shore in the teeth of an icy grave. The human chain leaves a bloody stain washed away in the pounding waves. And the next song is Headlong Flight. This is probably the kind of the most intense rocking song on here, and it's definitely one of the better ones, and it was one of the songs they kind of highlighted. It was the song that came out just ahead of the album. Um, uh, and it's just basically about him not being, you know, wishing that he could do it all again. That's one of the main lines in there. I wish I could do it all again. It's but it's the one song more than any other though that definitely takes you back to their 70s work, stuff like Bytor and the Snow Dog, and and things like that. But it's an intense hard rock song. I mean, just a great tune. I have stoked the fire on the big steel wheels, steered the airships right across the stars. I learned to fight, I learned to love and learned to feel. Oh, I wish that I could live it all again. And there's a thing called the Peddler 2, which I guess is supposed to be just another thing with the peddler voice whispering, "What do you lack?" But I have not found it. I mean, I don't hear it. I don't hear it at the end of Headlong Flight or at the beginning of the next song. I don't hear it. It shows it right here. Right there. But I don't hear it. So, anyway, so we go on to side 4. And the first track is BU2B2, which, if I'm not mistaken, I think is just an orchestral backing with Geddy singing on it. There might be some other band instrumentation on it, but I think that's pretty much it. It's only about a minute and a half. It's just kind of a reprise of BU2B, but more kind of downbeat, and it's basically about just kind of the disillusionment and loss of faith that he's experienced over all the crazy events of his life and all the grief and tragedy and everything. And which, of course, if you know anything about the Rush history, there's a bit of that in there, especially in Neil's story. But just kind of picking up and carrying on. Life goes from bad to worse. I still choose to live, find a measure of love and laughter and another measure to give. I still choose to live and give even while I grieve, though the balance tilts against me I was brought up to believe. And then the next song is Wish Them Well. I think Neil is kind of embarrassed by these lyrics, and it's kind of a shame because the tune is really catchy. It's probably the catchiest song on the album, and would have been a good song to promote the album, but I think he probably didn't want to put too much emphasis on it because he didn't really care for the lyrics. But it's basically all the people who want to dog you and bring you down, just and bring negativity into your life. Just wish them well and let them go on their way, and just that's basically the kind of the idea. Let's see. People who judge without a measure of mercy, all the victims who will never learn, even the lost ones you can only give up on, even the ones who make you burn. The ones who've done you wrong, the ones who pretended to be so strong, the grudges you've held for so long, it's not worth singing that same sad song. Then we come to my favorite song on the album, and the last song on the album, the last song Rush is ever likely to do, The Garden. This is just, it's to me, it's got to be the most beautiful thing that Rush has ever done. Lyrics were inspired by Candide, which I've heard about it all down through the years, but I don't know anything really about it. I'll just read there's little deals at the top of each lyric, that tell the plot of the story for that song and the thoughts of the character in that song. And it says, long ago I read a story from another timeline about a character named Candide. He also survived a harrowing series of misadventures and tragedies, then settled on a farm near Constantinople. um, which is on Earth. But unless there's a Constantinople on this other world, listening to a philosophical rant, Candide replied, "That is all very well, but now we must tend our garden." I have now arrived at that point in my own story. There is a metaphorical garden in the acts and attitudes of a person's life, and the treasures of that garden are love and respect. I have come to realize that the gathering of love and respect from others and for myself has been the real quest of my life. Now we must tend our garden. And I'm just going to play a clip from it. It's such a great song.
Treasure